Hello, Zenith women, and welcome to the channel. The rarest individuals are the ones who answer to no one, not even the world itself. Sigma females don't just stand out, they unsettle people without even trying. Why? Because their habits aren't just different, they're almost otherworldly. Science even confirms that only 1% of women exhibit true lone wolf tendencies, making Sigma females rarer than a peaceful family group chat. They move through life with an aura of mystery, breaking unspoken rules, questioning traditions, and vanishing from social gatherings like ghosts, without a single goodbye. Some call them unpredictable, others say they're impossible to read. The truth? They operate on a wavelength so unusual that even the most observant people struggle to keep up. If you've ever met a woman who dissects conversations like a detective, disappears without explanation, and low-key enjoys proving people wrong, you've encountered a Sigma female. And if you are one, well, prepare to recognize yourself in the most bizarre and brutally honest ways possible. Number one, they often feel like they were born in the wrong era. There's something about the modern world that just doesn't sit right with a Sigma female. It's not just the superficiality, the forced small talk, or the endless need for validation. It's something deeper. She walks through life feeling like she was meant for another time, another place, where people had depth, where conversations weren't just empty noise, and where individuality wasn't seen as a threat. The present feels too artificial, too scripted, like everyone is following a rule book she never agreed to. She looks around and sees people obsessed with trends that will be forgotten in a month, chasing approval like it's oxygen, and clinging to relationships out of fear of being alone. To her, it all feels off, as if she's watching a play, but she was never given a script. She doesn't play along, and because of that, she often feels like an outsider in a world that should have been hers, but somehow isn't. While most people find comfort in routine and conformity, she feels suffocated by it. She craves depth, unpredictability, and meaning. When she talks, she wants to exchange ideas, not empty pleasantries. When she connects with someone, she wants realness, not shallow interactions built on convenience. It's why she's selective with people, why she disappears from time to time, and why she'd rather be alone than surrounded by noise that means nothing. Society has tried to mold her, but it never worked. She was never meant to fit into the system. There's an old soul energy in her, a quiet defiance that keeps her from being absorbed into the mindlessness of the modern world. People tell her to just go with the flow, but what they don't understand is there is no flow for her. She creates her own path, and that path rarely looks like anything others recognize. The irony? While the world moves forward, mindlessly chasing the next distraction, she's the one who actually sees things for what they are. She's not behind, she's just ahead in a way most people will never understand. Number two, they talk to themselves more than they talk to others. It's not that Sigma females dislike talking to others. They just find that most conversations don't match the depth of their own thoughts. So instead of wasting time on small talk, they turn inward, engaging in full-blown internal discussions that would put a debate panel to shame. They don't just think. They argue with themselves, challenging their own logic, breaking down their own perspectives, and even playing devil's advocate against their own ideas. It's an endless loop of self-refinement, a mental battleground where only the strongest, most well-thought-out conclusions survive. And sometimes they say it out loud. They'll be pacing around, lost in thought, and suddenly, boom, they're responding to their own questions like they're having a deep conversation with an invisible genius. It's not madness, it's strategy. By verbalizing their thoughts, they sharpen them, test their clarity, and refine their reasoning before ever letting the world hear them. This habit makes them seem distant, even strange to others. People might walk in on them muttering to themselves, completely unaware they've just interrupted a high-stakes mental trial. But Sigma females don't care. They know that by the time they finally speak to someone else, their words will be so precise, so sharp, and so brutally accurate that they won't need to say much at all. Number three, they rewrite their own identity whenever they feel like it. A Sigma female is not tied to an identity. She is tied to growth. If something no longer aligns with her, she will burn it to the ground and rebuild from scratch. No hesitation, no apologies. She doesn't believe in clinging to an outdated version of herself just because the world expects consistency. One day she's deeply invested in something, the next she's completely detached from it, not because she's lost, but because she's evolving. She sees identity as a tool, not a cage. If a certain mindset, habit, or lifestyle no longer serves her, she'll shed it like old skin and step into a new version of herself without looking back. This confuses people. They expect her to be the same person they met years ago. But a Sigma female has no loyalty to the past. If someone tries to bring up who she used to be, she'll look at them like a stranger, because in her mind, that version of her doesn't even exist anymore. She is an expert at self-reinvention. If she wakes up one day and realizes she's been tolerating something beneath her standards, she'll cut it off, whether it's a toxic relationship, a limiting belief, or an entire lifestyle. And the most unsettling part, she doesn't announce it. No dramatic declarations, no explanations, just silent transformation, leaving everyone else scrambling to understand what just happened. This is what makes her unstoppable. While most people spend their lives trapped in the same patterns, afraid to change, a Sigma female rebuilds herself whenever necessary. She is never truly the same person twice. Number 4, they have a habit of analyzing people like a human lie detector. Sigma females don't just hear what people say, they dissect it. Every word, every pause, every flicker of hesitation is analyzed like a crime scene. While most people take things at face value, a Sigma female is mentally decoding every interaction, scanning for inconsistencies and reading between the lines. She doesn't need fancy technology to detect a lie. Her mind is a built-in lie detector. She catches the nervous micro-expressions, the unnatural pitch changes, the way someone's body stiffens for half a second before they respond. It's not paranoia, it's pattern recognition, sharpened by years of observation. She knows that words can be rehearsed, but the body never lies. This habit makes it nearly impossible to deceive her. A person could be saying all the right things, but if something feels off, she'll notice it instantly. And the best part, she won't always call it out right away. She'll let people dig their own holes, feeding them just enough rope until they've trapped themselves in their own lies. Then when they least expect it, she'll drop a single razor-sharp question that exposes everything, leaving them scrambling for a way out. This unnerves people. Some feel like she can read their minds, while others get defensive without even realizing why. But she doesn't do it to intimidate. It's just how her brain works. She values honesty, and if someone thinks they can manipulate her, they're in for a rude awakening. Number 5, they attract and repel people simultaneously. Sigma females have an energy that's impossible to ignore, but not always easy to handle. People feel pulled in, captivated by their aura of mystery, confidence, and independence. Yet at the same time, something about them triggers an instinct to step back. It's an unspoken tension, a strange push-pull dynamic that leaves people utterly confused. At first, it's the intrigue. Their presence is effortless, their energy magnetic. They don't chase attention, which ironically makes them even more fascinating. Unlike most, they don't rely on exaggerated charm or perform for approval. This authenticity is rare, and people can't help but be drawn to it, but then the intimidation sets in. Once someone gets close enough, they realize a Sigma female isn't easily influenced, emotionally dependent, or overly impressed. She's unshakable, unreadable, and completely self-contained. That's when the fear kicks in, because she makes people confront their own insecurities. Those who expected her to be easy to impress or control start to feel uncomfortable. They sense she sees right through them, and instead of trying to understand her, they pull away. This dynamic plays out in relationships, friendships, and even casual interactions. People idolize her from afar but hesitate to get too close. Some adore her strength, while others feel unsettled by it. It's not that she tries to be intimidating, she's simply unapologetically herself, and that alone is enough to shake people's perception of power. The irony: those who back away often end up more obsessed than before. They can't figure out why they felt so drawn to her in the first place, or why they suddenly retreated. The more they try to forget her, the more she lingers in their minds, because unlike most people, she never needed them in the first place. Number 6, they have a dark, almost sinister sense of humor. Sigma females don't do cute humor. Their wit is razor sharp, drenched in sarcasm, and often laced with a dark edge that most people don't know how to respond to. They find amusement in irony, absurdity, and the brutal realities of life that others prefer to ignore. Where most people laugh at predictable jokes, they chuckle at the sheer ridiculousness of human nature, sometimes in ways that leave people questioning if they should laugh or be concerned. Their humor isn't for the easily offended. They'll make an offhand comment so dry and cutting that it takes a second to register, and by the time it does, it's already too late. Their jokes often expose uncomfortable truths, making people laugh and squirm at the same time. It's not that they're trying to be sinister, it's just that they don't sugarcoat reality. If something is dark but true, they'll say it. And if someone gets uncomfortable, that's their problem, not the Sigma females. This type of humor throws people off. One moment, a Sigma female is quiet and observant. The next, she drops a comment so unexpectedly dark that the room falls silent before nervous laughter breaks out. People don't always know whether she's joking or dead serious, and that's exactly how she likes it. Her humor also serves as a filter. The people who get it, they're the ones worth keeping around. The ones who don't, well, let's just say she won't be explaining herself. Number 7, they sabotage shallow relationships on purpose. Sigma females don't waste their time on shallow connections. The moment they sense that someone is only interested in the surface version of them, the agreeable, easy-to-digest, socially acceptable version, they start quietly sabotaging the relationship. Not out of malice, but out of pure efficiency. If a person can't handle their realness, there's no point in dragging things out. They don't do this dramatically. There's no sudden argument, no big confrontation. Instead, they test people in subtle but calculated ways. They start saying things that challenge their comfort zone, exposing cracks in their perception of the world. They might question a belief, make a brutally honest observation, or refuse to play along with the usual social niceties. And then, they watch. If the other person gets defensive, offended, or tries to bring them back into a more palatable version of themselves, the Sigma female knows all she needs to know. That's when she starts withdrawing, mentally checking out long before she physically leaves. She doesn't argue, beg, or try to make them understand. She just lets the distance grow. The irony? Most people don't even realize they've been tested. They just wake up one day and notice she's become colder, quieter, harder to reach. By the time they figure it out, she's already moved on, leaving them confused about what went wrong. But for her, nothing went wrong. Everything went exactly as it should. If someone can't handle the full, unfiltered version of her, they were never meant to stay. Number 8, they intentionally keep parts of themselves hidden. A Sigma female may seem open, even engaging, but don't be fooled. You only know what she wants you to know. No matter how close you think you are, there are entire layers of her mind that remain completely off limits. She doesn't hide things out of fear or insecurity, she does it on purpose. Mystery isn't something she tries to create, it's simply her default setting. She has mastered the art of selective revelation, knowing exactly how much to share to keep interactions flowing while keeping the most valuable parts of herself tucked away. People mistake this for shyness, but it's actually a form of control. She knows that the more someone knows about her, the more power they have over her. And if there's one thing a Sigma female refuses to give away, it's power. Even those who consider themselves close to her only get fragments. They might know her humor, her opinions, her routines, but they have no clue about her deepest ambitions, vulnerabilities, or past experiences. Ask her a direct question about something personal, and she'll either deflect, give a vague response, or shift the focus onto you before you even realize what happened. She answers without actually answering. This habit makes people obsessed. The harder she is to figure out, the more people try. They think if they just spend enough time around her, they'll finally crack the code. But that's the mistake. There is no code to crack. She is always evolving, always keeping something to herself, always one step ahead. And that's exactly how she wants it. Number 9, they have an almost spiritual connection with silence. While most people squirm in silence, feeling the need to fill the air with small talk or distractions, Sigma females thrive in it. Silence isn't uncomfortable for them. It's a space to recharge, reflect, and recalibrate. Where others see quiet as a void, they see it as a sanctuary. In a crowded room, while others nervously check their phones or try to start random conversations, a Sigma female will sink into the stillness, fully at ease. The noise of the world might swirl around her, but she has mastered the art of absorbing the silence like fuel. It allows her to tune out the unnecessary, clear her mind, and connect with her inner self in a way that words or interaction could never offer. What makes this even more fascinating is that, unlike the typical person who feels compelled to fill silence with something, anything, a Sigma female understands that silence is where clarity lives. The absence of noise offers her the perfect environment to think, plan, and reassess. It's in these moments of quiet that she finds her best ideas, strategies, and decisions, as if the universe speaks to her in the space between the sounds. What might seem like discomfort to others is actually a power move for her. The longer she sits in silence, the more grounded she feels. Most people can't bear it for long. Their minds start racing, their nerves start twitching. For her, the silence is a way to assert her independence, showing the world that she doesn't need constant noise or validation to exist. It's a connection to something beyond the mundane, a link to her own thoughts, and on a deeper level, almost like tapping into a spiritual rhythm where time slows down and everything that's important rises to the surface. It's an incredibly potent and unique quality that makes her an enigma in a world that's often too loud to notice the value of quiet. Number 10, they experiment with themselves like a science project. Sigma females don't live life on autopilot. They approach existence like a continuous experiment, constantly tweaking and testing their habits, routines, and mindsets just to see how they'll evolve. It's not about seeking perfection or even expecting specific results. It's about the process of discovery. One week they might wake up at 5 a.m., meditate for an hour, and stick to a rigid, structured day. The next week they'll throw out all the routines and embrace spontaneity, following their instincts rather than a schedule. They're always curious about how these shifts affect their energy, productivity, and even their emotions. It's a way of self-exploration. They want to understand their limits, their strengths, and their areas of growth, but they never stop experimenting. It's almost like they're conducting a series of trials, observing themselves from a distance. What happens if I cut sugar out for a month? How will I feel if I push myself to talk to strangers every day? Will my mood change if I stop checking social media for a week? Every action becomes a data point, and they're always analyzing the results, fine-tuning their approach. This scientific mindset isn't about looking for a fixed formula. It's about embracing the chaos of life and finding what works best for them at any given moment. They aren't afraid to break their own habits, challenge their own beliefs, or shock themselves with new experiences just to see what comes next. Most people would consider it a bit extreme, but for the Sigma female, it's just how she learns and grows. Life is one big experiment, and she's always the test subject, never settling for normal when she could be figuring out what's possible beyond it. In the world of Sigma females, there's no room for mediocrity or monotony. They're the architects of their own lives, constantly evolving, breaking boundaries, and redefining what it means to live authentically. Their habits, often strange, unpredictable, and even unsettling to the untrained eye, are the very essence of their independence and self-mastery. They don't conform to society's expectations or bend to the whims of fleeting trends. Instead, they forge their own path, relentlessly challenging themselves and the world around them. It's easy to look at their lives from the outside and misunderstand the silence they cultivate, the games they play with their own identity, the mystery they guard. All of it can be misinterpreted as aloofness or unpredictability. But for the Sigma female, it's all about self-discovery, self-protection, and self-expression. Every strange habit is a reflection of her ongoing journey to understand herself in ways others can't even imagine. What sets Sigma females apart is that they never stop evolving. They're always testing their limits, rewriting their rules, and experimenting with new ways of being. They don't simply exist, they transform. And if the world can't keep up with that, it's not their problem. So the next time you encounter a Sigma female, don't try to decode her. Don't rush to understand every quirk, every mystery, every habit. Instead, appreciate the fact that she's a living, breathing testament to the power of individuality. The kind of woman who doesn't just follow the road less traveled, but creates her own. And that in itself is what makes her irreplaceable. If you found yourself intrigued by the mind of a Sigma female and the wild, fascinating habits that make her who she is, then don't let this be the last time you dive into the world of extraordinary people. Subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the lives of those who defy the norm and reshape reality. If you enjoyed this, Make sure to hit like, drop a comment, and share this with anyone who needs a glimpse into a life that's anything but ordinary. Let's keep the conversation going. What's the most surprising habit you've noticed in a Sigma female? Let us know. Join the community of curious minds who aren't afraid to question, learn, and grow. Until next time, stay unpredictable, stay extraordinary.